by J.K. Rowling. Scary looking fine, said Stan, who had been watching Harry read. He murdered 13 people, said Harry, hanging the page back to Stan. With one curse? Yeah, said Stan, in front of witnesses and all. Broad daylight. Big trouble it caused, didn't it, Aaron? Ah, said Aaron darkly. Stan swirled in his armchair, his hands at the back. They batted to look at Harry. Beck was a big supporter of you-know-who, he said. Well, Voldemort, said Harry without thinking. Even Stan's pimple went white. Aaron jerked the steering wheel so hard that the whole farmhouse started to jump aside to avoid the bus. You order you three, said Stan. Choose say your name for. Sorry, said Harry hastily. Sorry, I forgot. Forgot, said Stan weakly. Limmy, my ear's going fast. So Beck was a supporter of you-know-who? Harry prompted apologetically. Yeah, said Stan, still rubbing his chest. Yeah, that's right. Very close to you-know-who, they say. Anyway, when little Harry Potter put page to you-know-who, Harry nervously flattened his fringe down again. All you-know-who's supporter was struck down, weren't they, and most of them were in a whirl with you-know-who gone, and they can't quite. But not Sirius Black. I saw he'd been serving the command once. You-know-who had taken over. Anyway, the cornered Black in the middle of a street full of muggles, and Black took it all out. His one and he blast of the street appalls. And it was a guard, and so did a dozen muggles that were got in the way. Horrible, yeah? And you know the Black did then? Stan continued in a dramatic whisper. What? said Harry. Laughed, said Stan. She stood there and laughed. And then reinforcements from the Minister of Magic got there. He went with them quiet as anything, still laughing. Is that off? Cause he mad? Any mad? If he weren't when he went to Azkaban, he will be now, said Aaron in his low voice. I'd blow myself up before I set foot in that place. This serves him right, mind, after what he did. They had a good job covering it up, didn't they, Aaron? Said Stan. All street blew up and all them muggles dead. And whatever they said and happened, Dan, gas explosion, grunted Annie. And now he's out, said Stan, examining the newspaper picture of Black's face again. Never seen a breakout from Azkaban before, and beats me out, did it? Frightened, eh? Might I don't fancy your chances again against Azkaban guards, eh? Andy suddenly shivered. Talk about someone else, Dan. This is a good lad. The Azkaban guards give me the collarbobbles. Stan put the paper away rectangly, and Harry leaned against the window of the night bus, feeling worse than ever. You couldn't have imagined what Stan might be telling his passengers in a few nights' time. Hear about that Harry Potter? Blew up. His aunt. We had him in by nose, didn't we, Anne? He was trying to run for it. He, Harry, his broken wizard laws just like Sirius Black, was inventing Aunt March had begun to land him in Azkaban. Harry didn't know anything about the wizard prison, though everyone he'd ever heard speak of it suited his same fearful tone. Harry crit. The Hogwarts gamekeeper had spent 2 months there only last year. Harry wouldn't soon forget the look of terror on Hagrid's face when he had been told he was going, and Hagrid was one of the bravest people Harry knew. The night bus rolled through the darkness, scattering bushes and bullets, telephone boxes and trees, and Harry lay, restless and miserable, in his feather bed. After a while, Stan remembered that Harry had paid for hot chocolate, but poured it all over Harry's pillow when the bus moved off Burnley from Agency to Aberdeen. One by one, wizards and witches in dressing gowns and slippers descended from the upper floors to leave the bus. They all looked very pleased to go. Finally, Harry was the only passenger left. Right then, Neville, said Stan, clapping his hands. Whereabouts in London? Diagon Alley, said Harry. Right here, said Stan. All right then. Bang. They were thundering along Charging Close Road. Harry stepped out and watched buildings and benches squeezing them, sleeps out of the night's pathway. The sky was getting a little lighter. He would lie low for a couple of hours, go to Gringotts the moment it opened, then set off, where he didn't know. Anne slammed on the brakes and the night bus skidded to a halt in front of the smoke and shabby-looking pub, the Leaky Cauldron, behind which lay the magical entrance to Diagon Alley. Thanks, Harry said to Aaron. He jumped down the steps and helped Stan all over his truck and Hedwig's cage onto the pavement. Well, said Harry, bye then. But Stan wasn't paying attention. Still standing in the doorway of the bus, he was goggling at the shadowy entrance to the Leaky Cauldron. There you are, Harry, said a voice. Before Harry could run, he felt in a hand on his shoulder. At the same time, Stan shouted, Blimey, Anne, come here, come here. Harry looked up at the owner of the hand of his shoulder and felt a bucketful of ice cascade into his stomach. He had walked right into Cornelius Fudge, the Minister for Magic himself. Stan leaped onto the pavement beside them. What did you call Neville, mister? He said excitedly. Fudge, a portly little man in a long pinistered cloak, looked old and exhausted. Neville? He repeated, frowning. This is Harry Potter. I knew it! Ned shouted again. Anne, guess who Neville is, Anne? Harry's Harry Potter. I can't see his car. Yeah, said Fudge testily. Well, I'm very glad the night bus picked Harry up, but he and I need to step inside the leaky cauldron now. Fudge increased the pressure of Harry's shoulder, and Harry found himself being steered inside the pub. A stooping figure bearing a lantern appeared through the door behind the bar. It was Tom, the wizened, toothless landlord. You've got him, mister, said Tom. Will he be wanting anything? Beer, brandy? Perhaps a pot of tea, said Fudge, who still had letting go of Harry. There was a loud scraping and puffing from behind them, and Stan and Aaron appeared, carrying Harry's truck and Hedwig's cage and looking around excitedly. Oh, come on, you didn't tell us who you are, Neville, said Stan, beaming at Harry while Aaron, owlish face, peeled his interest all over Stan's shoulder. And a private parlors, please, Tom, and Fudge said Fudge bluntly. Bye, said Harry miserably to Stan and Aaron, as Tom beckoned the Fudge towards the passage that led from the bar. Bye, Neville, called Stan. Fudge marched Harry along the narrow passage through Tom's lantern, and then into a small parlor. Tom clicked his fingers, a fire burst into life in the grate, and he bowed himself out of the room. Sit down, Harry, said Fudge, indicating a chair by the fire. Harry sat down, feeling goosebumps racing up his arms despite along of the fire. Fudge took off his pinstriped coat and tossed it aside, then hitched up the trousers of his bottle green suit and sat down opposite Harry. I'm Cornelius Fudge, Harry, the Minister of Magic. Harry already knew this, of course. He had seen Fudge once before, but as he had been wearing his Fuzz's invisibility cloak at the time, Fudge wasn't to know that. Tom the innkeeper reappeared, wearing a prom over his nightshirt and bearing a tray of tea and crumpets. He played the tea on the table between Fudge and Harry and left the parlor, closing the door behind him. Well, Harry, said Fudge, pouring out of tea, you've had us all in a flight trap. I don't mind telling you. Running away from your aunt and uncle's house like that. I'd started to think, but you're safe, and that's what matters. Fudge balanced himself at a crumpet and punched the plate towards Harry. Eat, Harry. You look dead on your feet. Now then, you will be pleased to hear that we have dealt with the unfortunate blowing up of Miss Marjorie Dursley. Squad, 2 members of the Accidental Magic Traversal Squad were dispatched to Private Drive a few hours ago. Miss Dursley had been punched and her memory had been modified. She has no recollection of the incident at all. So that's that, and no harm done. Fudge smiled at Harry over the trim of his teacup, rather like an uncle surveying a favorite nephew. Harry, who couldn't believe his ears, opened his mouth to speak, couldn't think of anything to say, and closed it again. You're worrying about the reaction of your aunt and uncle, said Fudge. Well, I don't deny they are extremely angry, Harry, but they are prepared to take you back next summer as long as you stay at Hogwarts for the Christmas and Easter holidays. Harry unstuck his throat. I always stay at Hogwarts for the Christmas and Easter holidays, he said. And I don't ever want to go back to Private Drive. Nah, I'm sure you'll feel differently once you calm down, said Fudge in a worried tone. They are your family, after all. I'm sure you are fond of each other, very deep down. It didn't occur to Harry to put Fudge right. He was still wanted to hear what was going to happen to him now. So all that remains, said Fudge, now is to butter himself a second crumpet, is to decide where you're going to spend the last 3 weeks of your holidays. I suggest that you take your room here at the Leaky Cauldron and... Hang on, blurted Harry. What about my punishment? Fudge blinked. Punishment? I broke the law, Harry said. The decree for the restriction of underage visiting. Oh, my dear boy, we're not going to punish you for a little thing like that, cried Fudge, waving his crumpet impatiently. It was an accident. We don't send people to Azkaban just to blow in their aunts. But this didn't tally at all with Harry's past dealings with the Ministry of Magic. Last year I got an official warning just because a half-ass smashed a pudding into my uncle's house, said Harry, frowning. The Minister of Magic said I'd be expelled from Hogwarts if there was any more magic there. Unless Harry's eyes were deceiving him, Fudge was suddenly looking awkward. Circumstances change, Harry. We have to take this into account. In the present climate, surely you don't want to be expelled? Of course I don't, said Harry. Well then, what's all the fuss about? Laughed Fudge sadly. Now have a crumpet, Harry, while I go and see if Tom's got a room for you. Fudge strode out of the parlor and Harry stared after him. There was something extremely odd going on. Why had Fudge been waiting for him to the Leaky Cauldron if not to punish him for what he'd done? And now Harry came to think of it, surely it wasn't usual for the Minister for Magic himself to get involved in matters of underage magic. Fudge came back, accompanied by Tom and the innkeeper. Room's 11-3, Harry, said Fudge. I think you'll be very comfortable. Just one thing, and I'm sure you'll understand. I don't want you wandering off into Muggle London, all right? Keep to Diagon Alley, and you're to be back here before dark each night. Surely you understand. Tom will be keeping an eye on you for me. Okay, said Harry slowly. But why? Don't want to lose you again, do we? Said Fudge with a hardly thought laugh. No. Best we know where you are. I mean, Fudge cleared his throat loudly and picked up his pinstripe cloak. Well, I'll be off. Plenty to do, you know. Have you had any luck with Black yet? Harry asked. Fudge's fingers slipped on the silver flutteries of his cloak. What's that? Oh, you're hurt. Well, no, not that, but it's only a matter of time. The Azkaban guards have never failed yet, and they are angrier than I've ever seen them. Fudge sighed lightly. So I'll say goodbye. He held out his hand at Harry, shaking it as an idea. Minister, can I ask you something? Certainly, smiled Fudge. Well, the Diagon Hogwarts are allowed to visit Hogsmeade, but my aunt and uncle didn't sign the permission form. Do you think you could? Fudge was looking uncomfortable. He said, No, I'm very sorry, Harry, but I'm not your parent or guardian. But you're the Minister of Magic, said Harry eagerly. If you gave me permission. No, I'm sorry, Harry, but rules are rules, said Fudge flatly. Perhaps you'll be able to visit Hogsmeade next year. In fact, I think it's best if you don't. Yes. Well, I'll be off. Enjoy your stay, Harry. And with a last smile and shake of Harry's hand, Fudge left the room. Tom moved forward, beaming at Harry. If you'll follow me, Mr. Potter, he said, I'll be taking things up. Harry followed Tom up a handsome wooden staircase to a door with a brass number 11 on it, which Tom unlocked and opened for him. Inside was a very comfortable-looking bed, some highly polished oak furniture, and a cheerfully crackling fire, and perched down on top of the wardrobe. Hedwig, Harry asked. The snowy owl clicked the big and fluttered down onto Harry's arm. Very smart owl you got here, chuckled Tom. I arrived about 5 minutes after you did. If there's anything you need, Mr. Potter, don't hesitate to ask. He gave another bow and left. Harry sat in his bed for a long time, absent-mindedly stalking Hedwig. The sky outside the window was changing rapidly from deep, violetly to blue to cold, steely grey, and then slowly to pink, shot with gold. Harry could hardly believe that he'd only left Private Drive a few hours ago, that he wasn't expelled, and that was now facing 3 completely dazzling-free weeks. It's been a very weird night, Hedwig, he yawned. And without even removing his glasses, he slumped back onto his pillows and fell asleep.